Good morning, everyone. I think we are now live. Welcome to this today's session on the ADR Partnership Awareness Day, building trust and excellence through partnerships. So today's session is dedicated to tell you a little bit about the ADR partnership, how it operates, some of our achievements, and also a little bit about the ADRA Association. So my name is Philip Jatkovic, and I'm the Secretary General of ADRA. ADRA is the private side of a public-private partnership with the European Commission. It's a public-private partnership that started in the middle of 2021 and looks to bring together industry of different shapes and sizes, research, RTO, so a broad church of interests that feed into the European Commission's thinking and initiatives, policy directions, and funding for AI data robotics technology development under the Horizon Europe program. So ADRA and the ADR partnership are looking at the kind of convergence and the coming together of AI data and robotics technologies, how we can look to develop interoperability and trustworthy AI technologies, how we can support both the development of sovereign Gen AI technologies, but also look at how these technologies can be adopted across the economy. So for today's session, we have two engaging tracks. We are, in the first instance, looking at how we can build an ecosystem of trust and accountability, explainability. How do we make sure that these technologies are understandable to those who use them? And secondly, how do we look to foster a European ecosystem of excellence and best practice to make sure that these technologies are able to be adopted and exploited to the greatest potential. So this session is for those who are navigating both the regulatory landscapes and those who are also looking at what is the kind of bleeding edge of innovation at the moment. So the ADR Awareness Day is all about helping you to connect, contribute, and inspire progress around these issues. Click. So a little bit, just a very quick, thank you, a very quick overview of where ADRA sits in this AI ecosystem of excellence. So ADRA, its stakeholders work to contributing to the thinking around the kind of policy developments and funding, and this is then connected to the kind of research innovation projects that come out of the Horizon Europe program. It's connected to the networks of excellence and gradually feeds into the part of the ecosystem that is dealing with innovation and deployment and the kind of practical commercial application of these technologies, the testing experimentation facilities, and finally the European digital innovation hubs. So this whole ecosystem helps to contribute to an ecosystem of trust and an ecosystem of excellence. So being able to span the lab to the market. Click. For today's agenda, as I briefly mentioned earlier, we're going to go through a bit of a voyage that will encompass some of these elements. So in a moment, I'll be introducing Joost Geerts, who's they're going to give us an overview of kind of the ADR ecosystem support. Emanuele Girardi, who is ADRA's president, is going to talk a little bit about ADRA's achievements and kind of next steps and where we hope to take the partnership and the association. Then we'll be heading into a panel discussion that will again focus on how the European Commission views both the ecosystem of trust and excellence, and how do we move between data to AI application to robotics. And next, we will focus on the ecosystem of trust and excellence from a kind of practitioner perspective. So we'll bring together both research and industry to talk about and get their views on how the three technologies come together and their potential. And then finally, we're going to have a call for book chapters that Heike will introduce, and I'll close the session at 11:55. So in which case, I will be introducing Joost. So Joost, if you mind putting yourself on screen, or I think you already are. Welcome.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so thanks a lot, Philip. So my name is Joost Geurts. I work for INRIA at the European Partnership Department. So INRIA is coordinator of the ADRA project. And so the project is there to support the ADR partnership. So we're actually in the last 6 months of our project, so we're very much in a wrapping up phase. So what I'd like to do today is to tell you a little bit about the project, so its objectives, and also some of the results. We have the products, we call them, and how they can be interesting for you. So just to point out, so for the E in ADRA E is for ecosystem, and this is an important word that we see a lot today. So Philip already mentioned the ecosystem of excellence and trust. So these are two terms that are coming from a white paper published by the Commission in 2020. So that's already a long time ago, but still a very valuable document. So I put the link down in the slide below, and I highly recommend reading it, because it presents the two sides of the trust and the excellence, and that they are interconnected. And on the one hand side, I mean, trustworthy ADR is important. At the same time, it presents opportunity for innovation and research in the European economy. And so this is all an ecosystem that all plays together, and the partnership is a very important aspect in there. So I put here the partnership objectives that already were presented by Philip before. So I propose we move on to the next slide. So just to put this a little bit in context, so the ADR partnership is a contract that was signed by, on the one hand side, the Commission, and the other side, the private side, represented by ADRA. And so there are a number of objectives to support, but in the end, what's important is that the ADR community, so the people that are active in this technology, get involved in these objectives and make it a reality. And so the ADRA project is a means for both ADRA and the Commission to mobilize the community and get them involved. Next slide, please. So it's a coordination and support action. So we started in July 2022 and will be ending in June 2025. And this activity is in close collaboration with ADRA. So ADRA is also a very important partner in the consortium. So when we set out ADRA-E, so the objective that we set ourselves was to create the conditions for a sustainable, effective, multi-layered, comprehensive, and coherent European AI data and robotics ecosystem. So there are a lot of heavy words there, but what I think is important, that AI is holistic. So there's a means that the different stakeholders interact to create a dynamic that all fits together. So next slide, please. And so the question is, okay, where do we start? And when we started 3 years ago, I mean, the most important is the community. I mean, if we need to start creating a community, so that's why we put it in the center of this diagram, saying, okay, I mean, the community will be the focus, and it will radiate to all the very important dimensions of AI data and robotics. So being a number of large initiatives, as mentioned before, like the TEFs, the Digital Innovation Hub, all these, until also on the regional, national ecosystem, and creating links between the two. Also, of course, very important, the outreach to the various communities, being policymakers on various levels, as well as educators and the general public. And finally, I mean, of course, the standardization is a very important part of our work. All right. So then moving on to a few highlights in the project. Yes, next slide. So the 3D document. So this is a sort of roadmap document. It's a very important document for ADRA because it gives sort of so it's a guiding document for the partnership, and especially for the financing of the research and innovation topics. They are being developed by inspiration of this document. So there's a document produced by ADRA, and ADRA-E provided the support to develop the document in the sense of organizing workshops, etc., to get the community involved in this effort. And this is still the case. The SRIDA is a living document, so we still continue to seek your help in developing this further. All right, next slide. So then also the awareness center. So this is a repository of educational materials that can help people present what ADR is all about, what to different types of audiences at various level. So this is a collaborative effort. So I mean, there are already a number of resources there, but I mean, also your own resources can be added to this. And the advantage of this is that you're not only adding it to our repository at ADRA, but that it will be diffused also via the AI on demand a platform, which means that it has becomes accessible to a wide variety of ADR stakeholders. Okay, so then some of our events, so maybe some of you have participated to one or more of them, at least to the second edition of the Awareness Day. You're all there. So we have also our community event, the ADR forum that we had the pleasure of organizing in Eindhoven a little more than a month ago. And also the Convergence Summit, which is something that's still upcoming, which is a more high-level event reaching out to different sectorial stakeholders. Okay, next slide, please. So this is still coming up, an event, the Future Ready, which will be in collaboration with the projects running under the umbrella of the partnership and the ADRA topic groups. And it will be about consolidating the effort they've made in the projects and ensuring their sustainability in the topic groups of ADRA. Okay, so that was my last slide, and just to invite you all to join this effort and join ADRA. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Just. Hi, Emanuela. Thank you very much, Just. I'm going to introduce you in a second, Emanuela. So we're moving on to the next panel that's going to be presented by Emanuela Girardi, and she's going to be giving an overview of how what ADRA has achieved in terms of the partnership. And some indication of what is our direction of movement and where the association is heading. So over to you, Emanuela. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philip, and thank you, Jost, also for setting the landscape. So can I move the slide or I have to ask? No, okay, perfect. Okay, so just like Philip said, I have the pleasure today of talking about ADRA, so the AI Data and Robotics Association, and also about the partnership, so the AI Data and Robotic Partnership. And what we would like to share with you is what we achieved so far, our vision, our goals, and what we're working on currently, I mean, for the development of this ecosystem that Jos presented very well on AI, data, and robotics. So I think that we can start with the presentation. there should be a movie, a video, or not? I don't know if it's in. Okay, great, fantastic. So while you start seeing this movie, I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully, yes. And if you don't have the audio, it's fine. I mean, there is no issue. So why do we want to start with this movie? So this movie was filmed at a BMW factory in the United States. These robots that you can see at the moment are robots that are assembling cars, and they represent both a huge opportunity but also sort of a challenge for Europe. So first of all, this factory is in the United States. It's just a pilot, it's just a test, so they're not yet used. Actually, yet, this is a strong and important part. They're not yet used in operations. But why it is important, this video, and why we wanted to show you this video today? Because this video really shows you that the integration of AI, data, and robotics have the possibility of really, I mean, revolutionize manufacturing. And this can happen only, I mean, we believe that if Europe acts decisively and fast. As you probably, I mean, all know Draghi's report, and Draghi's report emphasized that we are at a very critical moment. And we believe that our industry must transform to remain competitive globally, like it was well argumented in Draghi's report. And this is exactly why we created ADRA. So ADRA was created really because we think that Europe can only compete globally by uniting these three crucial technologies: AI, data, and robotics. So I think that you already had okay, we can skip the video now because you probably had um, the possibility to see it with your eyes, to touch and see it really. I mean, what was happening. So this is ADRA was founded in 2021, and it was founded by these five associations, which represent the entire European community on AI, data, and robotics, and are BDVA, Big Data Value Association, CARN, and URI, and ALIS that represents the AI communities, and Robotics, which represents the robotics community. And ADRA was founded to become the private partner of the Commission in the European Public-Private Partnership on AI, Data, and Robotics. If you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so for there was another slide. And so this is our board of directors. As you can see, even in the board of directors, you can really see that we are united in AI, data, and robotics, and all the different stakeholders are represented because in our board of directors, we are 18 board members, and 6 are coming from AI, 6 from data, and 6 from robotics. And within this area, AI, data, and robotics, 3 are coming from industry and 3 are coming from research. This is very important because, I mean, in every decision, in every activity that we develop, we always try to keep this balance between the different interests of research and industry. And of course, we always try to really bring together AI, data, robotics to make sure that we really think at the future where these technologies are uniting and are supporting each other. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, and this is, of course, I mean, you already met Philip. This is our secretariat, and Philip Piatkevich is our secretary general. And then we have, at the moment, we have a small team, but we're growing fast. And next year, there will be other members, our other colleagues that will join the team of ADRA because we are growing very, very fast. We were a sort of, we just exiting the startup phase, but now we are entering more stable phase. So also our members, you can see that we are really growing fast. If you can go to the next slide. And we, at the moment, probably there is a slide later, but we already have 160 members coming from 26 European states. So I think that it's, I mean, as I mentioned, we had 3 quite challenging years starting up also during the COVID, but I think that we reached quite a good results. And at the moment, we're growing fast. So we really created this ecosystem in AI, data, and robotics. This is important because I mean, like 3 years ago, this community were not united. We're really working in silos. So I think that seeing now these different companies, different research institutes, these different universities working together and really bringing together these different technologies is really, I mean, an important achievement, and it's really creating a single community and a single point of contact for all the different stakeholders that want to participate in this ecosystem, in this community. Can we go to the next slide? Okay, perfect. So these are the goal that we are achieving through the slide. I cannot really see well the slide because it's very, very light in my screen. But I think if I can see it, sorry, if I remember the slide, I think that these are the 6 big tickets that we identified in the slide and the strategic agenda. If it is that, because I'm sorry, but I really cannot read the second part of the slide. It's too light in my screen. But it's so the idea here is that we, as Jost already presented to you, one of the most important things that we do in ADRA, bringing together the different technologies, the different communities and technologies, we write the SRIDA. The SRIDA is the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda, and in the SRIDA we identify 6 big tickets. These are very important areas of investments and also development of AI, data, and robotics technologies. And probably there will be a slide later dedicated to this. And then we are also working to develop this ecosystem with several activities that we are developing with our members this year. We are working on standard, like Jost mentioned before, and we are also working on developing a European challenge to develop European champions on generative AI, because we think that this is also a very important part. And we are also working on, because we developed a task force on generative AI and robotics, and we just published last week a paper and the roadmap on generative AI and robotics. And while doing so, we were also identifying some very important use cases, really to identify and to share what our members are really doing, what the industry is really doing, and also really to understand which one are the needs of the market, because it's very important to have a technology push, but on the other side, we also need a market pull approach. We really need to understand what is important, what our industry needs to become more competitive and to increase their productivity. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so we, as I mentioned, we have a different kind of members, also different size of members, and according to the size and the kind of members, of course, we have different values that we can, different activities that we can propose to them. So when it comes to big industry, of course, we can really discuss together at a very strategic level how these 3 technologies, AI, data, and robotics, can really, bring their industry to the next level. And really think about the frontier of technologies and how they can be integrated, implemented in their activities. Then when it comes to SMEs and startup, especially if they are tech startup, we really engage them in the community so that they can also have the opportunity of growing, of scaling up, of accessing to different markets, to European market of AI, data, robotics. And for SMEs, it depends if they are more technological or not, but most of them, they really look for partners and also for skills, because one of the important things today is really to have access to skills in AI, data, and robotics. Then, of course, for RTOs in universities, we support them in developing new research objectives. And this is very important because one of the goals of ADRA, as it was mentioned by Jos before, it's also to have a social impact. So together with our research partner, we also try to develop research projects that are really having an impact on the one that are the challenges that we're facing today, like climate change, health, or other verticals that are very important and that were also stated in Draghi's report. And then, of course, we have the end user and the public sector and the NGOs. And this is a very, very important stakeholder for us, especially because, as you saw before, we have these 2 pillars today. For the European Commission strategy, one pillar is the ecosystem of trust, and the other pillar is the ecosystem of excellence. So ADRA is one of the elements of the ecosystem of excellence. But when we talk about the ecosystem of trust, this is the regulation that is developed by the European Commission, European Parliament, and European Council. So they just released a very important legislation on AI, the AI Act, but there is also the Data Act. And we make sure that our members can understand how to implement this legislation and also how to align to the value that are included in this legislation. We can go to the next slide. Thanks. So this, you can see our members, how they're growing and how they're distributed across Europe. I think that the trend, as you can see, I mean, it's going very well. Of course, we started from scratch 3 years ago, but of course, there is still a great opportunity for growing, and especially in some areas, especially like East Europe, but also in other areas. I think that, I mean, the faster the community grows, the better are, of course, the opportunities for all the members that are participating in the communities. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so this was the slide with the goals of the partnership. We're working very closely with the European Commission in this partnership, and our goals, our vision is really aligned with the priorities that were included in Draghi's report. So first one, European sovereignty on AI, data and robotics. Second, industry competitiveness. So we really need to make sure that our industry are more competitive, not only at European, but also at international level, and they have to do it with the digital and green transformation. Then, of course, we need to promote and to boost the excellence of our research, which is very good, but we need to keep on investing this. And then the last part, as I was just mentioning, is the social impact. We need to develop solutions for climate, health, energy, and security, really assuring the well-being and welfare of European citizens. We can go to the next slide. This is the community. I was mentioning before that we really need to create, and we already built part of it, but we need to keep on doing it together, a united community of excellence. So this is really an integrated network of AI, data, and robotics stakeholders across Europe. And we really see that in all the activities that we're already developing, there is a very strong collaboration. And this is the strength of this community, because they're not working in silos anymore, but are really working as a single community. And this is very important because we have the best experts in Europe in AI, data, and robotics. And every time there is a need for the commission or for a different need, we can really mobilize this community and reach directly this huge community of experts, which is very relevant, especially since we're living in a very critical moment for the sovereignty of AI data, for Europe in AI, data, and robotics. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so these were, just to give you an idea of what ADRA is, how it was developed in the past years, and what we did so far. So now I want to share with you some of the achievements of the partnership, and then also what we're doing next. So some of the achievements, I already mentioned them. So this RIDA, it was already mentioned both by me and by Jost. And I think that this RIDA is a very important document because, like Jost said, this RIDA is not just another roadmap. It's really a strategic document that unifies AI, data, and robotics in Europe. And it really sets the strategic directions for all the initiatives that are developed by the European Commission, but also by other institutions in Europe. Sorry, so if you go to the next slide, please. Here, it really shows you, for instance, that the innovation package with generative AI for you initiatives or the applied AI initiatives that were promoted just a few weeks ago, they're really based on the content of the RIDA. And these are very important initiatives where ADRA is really playing a critical and strategic roles because we are supporting the implementation of the strategy together with the Commission. For instance, if you think about generative AI for you or applied AI, we really create awareness about this initiative. We do knowledge dissemination to all the different stakeholders. We engage the communities in participating in these initiatives. And then we can also mobilize the communities on specific critical topics. And this is because if you think about the 14 verticals of generative AI for you or the 10 verticals of Draghi's report, they are almost all represented in our topic groups. If you can go to the next slide, which probably hopefully is okay, it's a topic group slide, thanks. And it's so you see that here we have 15 topic groups at the moment, and they really cover all these areas that you can see in the generative AI for EU initiative. For instance, we have generative AI application in manufacturing and in robotics. Then we have some sector-specific task forces in energy, in agri-food, in healthcare, and so on. Then you have some cross-cutting groups like on mobility and smart urban solutions, or on education, on innovation and technology uptake, policy, standardization, and then, of course, we have these RIDA topic groups. These topic groups, you can go to the next slide. Thanks. are very important. And this is just to show you, I mean, one of the activity of one of our topic group that I already mentioned before. So this is the Generative AI for Robotics group task force. And this group just released this policy paper and technology roadmap. And why was important this group? I think that it was important because it really brought together generative AI and robotics. And this is also why we wanted to show you this video at the beginning. Because on one hand, generative AI enhances robotic capabilities. So really enhances the understanding of the environment, the interaction with natural language, and also the adaptation to the environment. And then on the other side, the robots give generative AI a physical presence, so a real world data, testing, and embodied intelligence. And this is just, of course, one of the applications, I mean, the humanoid robots. And the one that you can see here in the picture in the slide, if you can see it, this is not happening in Europe, unfortunately, at the moment. And what is important is that the video that you show with those figure AI robots, at the moment, these robots, they're not, this generative AI that is inside these robots is not at all trustworthy, is not at all safe. I mean, in the European definition, of course, of trustworthy. So we really need to focus in Europe on developing trustworthy, safe, and frugal solution that they use little energy and a smaller amount of data. And in this, ADRA is really working a lot, and we wrote this policy paper, we wrote the roadmap, and we're already working on the second document that will be released in January. It's a very important document, and you can find it in our website. If we can go to the next slide. Okay, this you already saw them by Yost. I mean, creating a community from scratch is not easy, and also bringing together different communities like AI, data, and robotics that were quite divided as community. So what we did is that we really started with the bottom-up approach in almost every single member state, and we really try to really present the community, present ADA, present the goal of ADA, present the activities that we're building. And this is the way we created little by little in each member state this community of AI, data, and robotics, of industry and research institute. So I think that really it's a strong community because it's a community that has been built bottom up. And this you see really the result of it. And then if you can go to the next slide, thanks. Okay, so these were what we did more or less. And now we want to show you, I mean, what we're working on. So the main activities, of course, because we're developing lots of activities. So we are working at the SRID update. The SRID that you saw before with the 6 big tickets, it's just, it's the second release of the SRID. So now there is a third release going on. And here we identified already some focus areas. The most important part is that we need to focus on the full AI stack sovereignty, so not like on the model or on the cloud or on the data part, but really to have, I mean, if we want to control and I mean, to have independency or sovereignty over AI, data, and robotics, we need to control the entire value chain. This is very difficult today. Probably it will be discussed in the panel afterwards, but it's because it's, I mean, when we talk about, am I going late? Sorry, because I didn't keep the timing. I'm still on time? Okay, thanks. Thank you, sorry. So it is important to, I was talking about the value chain. So today it is very difficult, especially when it comes to AI, to control the entire value chain of AI because it's a global value chain. But we need to make sure that at least we have full control on some critical parts of it. At least we can be independent, I mean, in some of these critical parts. And this is really the importance of looking at the full AI stack sovereignty, not just part of it. Then another very important point, which was included in the innovation package, is the AI factories. So last week were announced 7 AI factories, and we think that this is a very strategic part of the European strategy, and we really need to speed up this process of having them as soon as possible. And another very important part that is coming out from this reader is the need to invest in foundational models that are reflecting European values. And this, if you can go to the next slide, this is a very important part that was developed in another one of our task force. So this task force on generative AI, which was founded in 2023, so I mean more than 1 year ago already, and this task force was founded because we identified that I mean there is a very high dependence today. Today it's even more than 1 year ago actually on non-European technologies when it comes to generative AI, and this is a very big risk for Europe. So we need to create in Europe investable European champions in generative AI. And this task force came out with a very good idea of creating a sort of a challenge based on generative AI, creating generative AI investable European champions. And this task force brought together 4 member states. And I think that this is a very good example of how ADRA can mobilize also member states, not only I mean the industry and research stakeholders that are already part of our community, but really engaging some member states that are already more advanced than others in the development and uptake of these technologies, and they really see the strategic need for developing European generative AI based on European values. If you can go to the next slide. This, I mentioned it before when I was talking about the roadmap on generative AI and robotics. In the last part of the work of the task force, we started conducting some interviews with some of the industry partners. And the idea is that we really wanted to identify some high impact application of generative AI-enabled robotics in the manufacturing industry. This is because we need to share the experience since we're at a very early stage still in Europe. And then because, as I was mentioning before, we need this market pull approach. And the last part on which we're working, that I think it's also very strategic and very important, is that we're trying to develop a sort of pre-competitive technologies and capabilities infrastructures. This is very important because being still at the early stage of the development of this technology, we need to share experience. We need to share the best practice that are already happening and also the challenges that our industry are facing at the moment. And ADRA is really acting as a platform for building this pre-competitive infrastructure on technology and capabilities. And the last part, this is just, we think that it's a very important part as well on which we're working. This is the standard. So as you know, I mean, this is the phase where the harmonized standards are currently under development, and harmonized standard will play a very important role for implementation of the AI Act because the compliance to the harmonized standard by the providers conveys the presumption of conformity. So this is a super important part. Not all of our industry in Europe are aware of this part, and this is why we are working on the standard really to create awareness on the importance of being part of this process that is defining the standard today. And also because, especially, I mean, industry, they don't have the regulatory requirements, especially SMEs, but the standardization body sometimes they lack the industry expertise of implementing the AI Act or the regulation in general. And so we're also trying to, to create with this community where we create awareness on the standardization process that it's happening at the moment. And on the other side, we also collect feedback from our industry members. The last part is that, okay, so this is what we did in the past. This is, I just show you what we're working on. So what can we do together? This is just to give you an idea what we would like to develop together. If you can go to the next slide. So first of all, I think that I hope you understood the value of becoming a member of ADRA, of being part of this community. This community is growing, and as I was saying, the bigger it gets, the stronger it gets. And we really think that this is one of the most important pillars, this ecosystem, this community for the European sovereignty in AI, data, and robotics. So I hope you will join us and you will be part of this community so that you can enjoy all the benefits and participate in all the activities that we're developing. Next slide. This is just to give you an idea of some of the things that are happening also with member states. So I mentioned already that there is now a challenge being developed by 4 member states together with ADRA, but then there are also other initiatives. For instance, with AINED and the Dutch AI Coalitie, we develop a partnership. They are invested in ADRA, and as Joost was mentioning before, the ADR forum of this year that was focused on sovereignty in AI, data, and robotics took place in Eindhoven last November. And then we also have then another example, a partnership with the French government. With the French government, they were really backing the generative AI and robotics policy paper and roadmap. But this is just to give you an idea, because I mean we can have a direct partnership with member states, with industry member, with all our members actually, because we think that really the best approach is really to create this community with the bottom-up approach. Next slide. Okay, just to conclude, because I think I was a little longer probably than I should have. So the most important message is that we need this European innovation ecosystem, and ADRA really integrates AI, data, and robotics with the goal of fostering the competitiveness of our industry and, of course, the sovereignty of Europe in AI, data, and robotics. And we do this through collaboration among the stakeholders, the different stakeholders, research members, industry members, and also across the member states, so distributed everywhere in Europe. And this really help us really supporting critical areas like generative AI, robotics, or trusted innovation, because we really think that these are the values that should be developed in Europe. And our goal really is to create this robust community that has to address European strategic priorities. So I think this was the last slide, probably. Was it? Okay. So yes, this is just a call to action, just to contribute. Okay. So thank you very much. I hope I was able to give you an idea what is happening in ADRA, what we did, and also what we're working on for the future. So thank you. And then I think I give the floor back to Philip. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you very much, Emanuela. That's a fantastic overview of the journey that ADRA has been on since the middle of 2021. And all of the things that it's delivered on. So I mean, it'd be really good also if we could put out a call to some of these people, some of the organizations and stakeholders in the call with us today, to get involved, especially with the topic groups, and get involved in the delivery and development of some of the products that you presented. Just we have one question before moving on. So we have Veronica Gavenda who asked whether you could elaborate a little bit more on the phase of going from the startup to a more stable form. If you could quickly comment on that.
Yes, sure. Thank you for the question. So we started from scratch. This is why I use the word startup, because we started with, founding the association. So really with the statute, this association was founded by these 5 founding association in AI, data, and robotics. And we really had, there was nothing before us, because before there was a partnership, a private-public partnership in robotics with Robotics, and the private-public partnership on data with BDVA. So starting from scratch took us, I think, a good 1 year and a half to set up the association, then the membership fee structure, to hire the secretariat, and so on. And I think that now, and at the same time, we were working also with the commission, because there was a sort of urgency. We needed to act fast. Still today, there is this search of urgency. I think that we need to act fast. And now I think that we are more stable because we have an organization, we have a secretariat, we have an office, we have a good number of members. Of course, we need to grow, like I was saying. But I think that now that we are exiting this initial startup phase, we are more on a scale up. So we're really ready to grow now. We're really more stable, and we can grow, and we can really, offer more benefits, more opportunity to our members. And also we have a kind of a small but robust community that we can leverage on for all the activities that we are developing together with the European Commission.
You're muted, Philip.
Schoolboy error. Sorry. Thank you very much for the answer there, Emanuela. I see another question's come in, but I'm going to leave this one, and we're going to answer it in the panel discussion that follows the one that I'm about to introduce. So at this point, once again, Emanuela, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for the journey, the ADRA's journey that you've presented. And now I'm going to hand over to Ed Curry, who's going to be overseeing and moderating the next discussion, which will really focus on the European Commission's perspective. So we have 2 speakers from the Commission, one who is certainly more of an expert on the kind of data side and the AI side, and we're going to see how the European Commission is organizing on their side with regards to ADR issues. So, Ed, at this point, I'll hand over to you to introduce Kimo and Cem.
That's great. Philip, thank you very much. So this panel is really about getting the input from the European Commission and an update on the activities that are happening there. I'm really pleased to have two great friends of the partnership. We have Kimo Rossi, who is the head of sector for the Data Policy and Innovation Unit. And we also have Cem Gulek, who is the Policy and Program Officer for the AI and Robotics Unit. Kimo and Kim, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We've had a fantastic presentation from Emanuela that talks about the real need from the private side in terms of bringing together the community, inspiring industry and research to come and work together, and we can really see an awful lot of activities there within ADRA. What I'd like to do is to maybe set the scene a little bit for people that aren't familiar with the partnership to kind of understand at a high level, like why was it important for the European Commission and for Europe as a whole to have this partnership on AI, data, and robotics? And Cem, I will maybe put that question to you to start with.
Thank you very much, and thank you also very much for the invitation today. So this partnership has been established in 2021, and our motivation at that time was that we could have more impact by joining forces. Joining forces between public and private. That way we can also leverage the investment in AI, data, and robotics. We committed to invest 1.3 billion for the period 21 and 2030, matched by 1.3 billion from the industry side. So we are joining forces between public and private, but not only, we're also joining the forces in AI, data, and robotics. Indeed, we cannot consider these domains are very much linked. And finally, we are also joining forces with the funding organization that you just mentioned, the existing associations that are supporting ADRA. And we can also say this is the place where we have researchers and the industry as well. This is very much important for us. This helps us to connect to the community, and ADRA is the place where all this community is meeting. And I can give a practical example. We had a very good and very comprehensive presentation given by Emanuela before. And if I take only one example, the strategic research and innovation deployment agenda that is being developed by ADRA is also helping us to direct our funding through Horizon Europe programs. So we are funding research and innovation in these domains using the 3D that ADRA is producing and developing with its community. If I take a more recent example, earlier this year, we had an AI innovation package that has been published by the European Commission. And we have there a GenAI for You initiative. In order to implement that initiative, which is a very ambitious initiative, we need to connect the communities. And this is exactly the role we see in the ADR partnership in ADRA. We had several meetings already with our key partner, ADRA, and ADRA is for us developing and mobilizing the community in each of the prioritized sectors that we have in that initiatives, being manufacturing, robotics, energy, or mobility. So we need a strong partnership to be stronger in Europe in the domain of AI, data, and robotics.
Thanks, Cem. So you mentioned there the exciting kind of opportunities that we're now seeing in the innovation space around generative AI. And one of the areas where Europe has been leading is in understanding European values and how that reflects within our technologies, how that reflects within the ethics and the design of our systems so that we have trustworthy systems. Any thoughts on how we kind of ensure the alignment between...
Buongiorno, Dottor Pazzerini. Buongiorno.
Yes.
Buongiorno to you as well, Fabio. Any thoughts on how we ensure the alignment between the technologies that we're developing with generative AI and these regulatory regimes that we have and this desire for trustworthy and ethical AI?
Okay, I will start with some information from that is more from the legal framework, but I'm not. Please note that I'm not working in the regulatory and compliance unit of the AI office, so I will maybe give some generic information about that, but I will complement it with some additional information. The AI Act is the world's first comprehensive law on artificial intelligence, and it is a risk-based approach that is adopted in that AI Act. And we want risk-based means that higher is the risk, higher are the requirements. And for non-risky technologies, there is very for that there is not much to do for the deployers and for the developers of technologies. The AI office has been established following in the framework of the AI Act, and the AI office is responsible for the implementation of the AI Act that are in line and consistent with European values and principles. So this is also something we are insisting in the EU. We are strong in that, in having technologies that are compliant with our values. And within the AI Act, we also have a specific roles for GPAI system. GPAI means general purpose AI models. Also, sometimes we name them foundation models. And the AI office has a supervisory role for the GPAI models. In particular, a code of practice will be developed by the AI office to help companies to comply with these rules on GPAI models. But this was more from the legal aspect. In my unit, we are working in research and innovation in the field of AI, data, and robotics. We are also supporting trustworthy AI solutions, including general purpose AI systems, through our funding programs. Just to give an example, we just finished 1 month ago the evaluation of 2 topics, Horizon Europe topics. One was about advancing large AI models, integration of new data modalities, and expansion of capabilities. And the other one was on explainable and robust AI, including generative AI systems. Those are just the 2 recent examples, and we are investing for these 2 topics 65 million only for these topics. But we have been investing on trustworthy AI solution already over the past years. So this means that technology can also help us to develop trustworthy AI system, and we are heavily investing in these technologies as well from this research and innovation aspect.
Okay, that's great, Jim. Thank you very much for that. And we might come back later on and talk a little bit more about the AI office. I'm going to move over to Kemo from the data unit, and in case people aren't aware, I'm a researcher in the data space, so very, very interested in the activities in the Commission here. One of the key challenges we have, Kemo, particularly with AI, is the availability of data, and in general, kind of sharing data within Europe has been a challenge over the last number of decades. But the Commission are doing a lot of work in that space now, particularly with common European data spaces. I might give you an opportunity to maybe introduce to us common European data spaces and how they can help us overcome some of these barriers around data sharing and data availability.
Thank you, Ed, and thank you for inviting me. So, as you presented me at the beginning, I come from another unit than Jem. So I come from the data regulation and innovation and research unit. So I'm here actually to represent the letter D in the acronym ADRA. So it explains what I'm here for, and also historically, we didn't start quite from scratch with the ADRA partnership, because, as Emanuela mentioned, there were already the Robotics partnership and the Big Data Value partnership, BDVA. So our unit managed the Big Data Value partnership from 2014 onwards. As you said, the availability of data has been a major obstacle for many things, not only AI development, but for many other purposes as well, for building value on data assets. They tend to stay in silos, and they do not move, and they are not exchanged, especially the industrial data. So that's why in year 2020, in February 2020, just before the COVID lockdown, the European Commission came up with a communication on its data policy, and it outlined the idea of common European data spaces. And they are practical data sharing arrangements that allow even closed and sensitive data to be shared. So they have several elements. They consist of, first of all, technology components. Then they need to establish interoperability and trust. So trust for data sharing, because without trust, there is no sharing. There is no willingness to share, and that has been the main obstacle of sharing industrial data until now: the lack of trust and lack of incentives. And they also ensure compliance with data legislation, with GDPR, with copyright, with the data. With the AI Act as well, Article 10, data governance of the AI Act. They provide flexibility to fit different needs of data users in different sectors. So they are not similar or static structures. They are not data repositories. They are more like data sharing infrastructures or ecosystems. So they could be compared with a water pipe network or the modern electricity networks, electricity grids, where you can also, it's not only one directional, but subscribers can also feed electricity into the network and be paid for that. So in a similar way, data assets can also be provided both directions. And scalability is very important part of that. Many data spaces start small, but they need to have the configuration that allows them to grow with the data and deal with growing volumes and traffic. That, in short, what are data spaces?
Thanks, Kim. I think it's a very nice analogy there with the electricity network, with the water network or road infrastructure. So like in Europe, and we have this history of providing this public infrastructure, and I think it's an obvious next step then to look at that digital infrastructure. What's that public digital infrastructure we can have? So Kim, I'll stick with you. In terms of looking at the different initiatives that we have, like you mentioned there that the data is the D in ADRA, and I like to see data as also being the glue between AI and robotics, but also in the glue for other things as well. So when we look at initiatives like AI factories, we've got data spaces, we've got ADR. How do you see the opportunity that we have here to establish global leadership in this space for Europe by working with these initiatives? Do you have any thoughts on that you'd like to share?
It's actually a very exciting moment now that we see the first data spaces in action and implementation. And at the same time, we have launched the first 7 AI factories that are, potential big, heavy users of data from those data spaces. The biggest problem and obstacle for companies, individuals, startups is with this complex landscape, the complex technology landscape, and the even more complex regulatory landscape. They don't really know where to start, and they don't feel really very confident of embarking into experiments in AI. So my hopes for these new initiatives that are now taking shape is that they can offer sort of template solutions and easy access to data, to computing infrastructures, and to AI models, and to simplify the complexity. So it's that it's easier to get started and it's safer to get started without immediately being caught up and in infringement procedures and things like that. And also to experiment what Emanuela nicely underlined in her presentation, the need to address the whole value chain from data creation collection to the data validation, annotation to AI development, and then the feedback loops, and then the final use of the solutions and the testing and improvement. So you can actually test the whole value chain with different players that are part of the value chain in these environments like the AI factories. Now, data provision is only one part of the value chain, but data is a critical raw material developing AI solutions. So it matters, the quality of the data matters. So this principle of garbage out also applies in AI development. We have to know the origin of the data. Like if the data contains personal data, where does it come from, and for what purpose was it initially collected? Can we use it for this purpose? So all these elements can actually be addressed in these controlled environments of data spaces and AI factories.
Thank you, Kimon. I think it's a really nice thought there. If you're looking at that value chain around this confluence of AI, data, robotics, embodiment of intelligence, the need to kind of bring together initiatives within ADRA, I think, is a real opportunity as well, and kind of leveraging the ecosystem for all of the founding organizations and all the members that are here. So I think a really important role. A last question for you, Kimmo. In terms of trying to ensure that we have a cohesive European ecosystem here that drives excellence in this space, what kind of measures do you think we need to do? What do you think are the next key steps now to grow this community? As Emmanuel said, we've had 3 years in startup phase, but now we're moving to the mature phase. Any thoughts about what you think is needed next?
That's a big question. To give you a short answer, you need money, coordination, a solid and simple legal framework, including standards. And money means not only funding, also investor money. So we don't have enough of taxpayer money for funding all activities. So, but a longer answer could be that first of all, we need a solid science and research base for everything that we do. And because there are many tricky problems that are nearly solved yet, like how to assess data quality, the bias, completeness, relevance, representativeness of data that is used for AI training. This is requirements in Article 10 of the AI Act, but how are these measured, for one thing? And how are then they ideally they should be measured automatically so that we don't need humans to do, because that might become a bottleneck in hiring enough humans to assess data quality for high-risk AI applications. Okay, then we need a stimulating innovation. We need to stimulate innovation around data spaces and AI factories. So that's obvious, and that's the reason why these were set up. Also, that safe sandboxes for experimenting risk-free before you go to the market. We need to build trust. We need to have examples that are breaking the ice for the first use, for the first time doing something, for the first time of sharing data. So we need to give examples so that others follow. No, now at this point we have very little, examples of impactful sharing of industrial data. It's not happening yet. So somebody needs to move first, and that's one thing. Then of course we need skills and talents, as Emanuela was mentioned. We need to also keep the talents in Europe. And not let them fly to Silicon Valley. Finally, we need to collaborate So Emanuela said as well, and I agree with this, that this whole value chain that we are addressing, the whole AI value chain, it's a global value chain. It's not a national or even a European value chain. It's global, and we need to collaborate also. We have to find a model to collaborate.
Okay, thank you very much, Kimon. I think there's a very significant role there for ADRA to play in the coordination and to bringing the ecosystem together. Jim, I'll go back to you for the last question here. So when we talk about developing this ecosystem of excellence, this ecosystem of trust within Europe, and one of the big kind of initiatives that's happened from the European Commission in the last number of months is the establishment of the AI office. You'd mentioned it earlier before, so maybe you might just take the opportunity to tell us a little about the AI office and what kind of supports it plans to provide for the ADR ecosystem.
Yes, as you explained, I think it is worth before introducing the task and the missions of the AI office to remind, as you just said, that we have to find a balance between the ecosystem of trust and the ecosystem of excellence. And basically, this is embedded also in the organization of the AI office. So following the AI Act, the AI office was created, and number of units that were already in DG Connect have been a little bit reshuffled. I'm working in the unit A1, excellence in AI and robotics. Then we have also a legal unit that is working on compliance and regulation. We have a unit that is working on AI safety. This unit has been created from scratch following the AI Act and is work on the development of, on the supervision of GPI system. And we also have a unit that is more working on policy coordination and innovation. Finally, because it is also important, we have a unit that is working at international level to also share and work towards AI for good, and to help countries that needs to implement this kind of solution. What do we offer? We offer through our legal initiatives a support to companies to comply with the AI Act, because we have to ensure that the implementation of the AI Act. And we have the so-called AI Pact that brings together companies and key stakeholders together and to prepare for the implementation of the AI Act. We have also regulatory sandboxes, as Kim also mentioned. This would help companies in developing solutions that are compliant with the legal requirements. In the field of innovation, if I have to cite only the most recent initiatives, what we are offering to the community, to the game, are now we're focusing on, as from the last Draghi's report on competitiveness, into prioritize the vertical. And we want to know that these technologies serves Europe to be more competitive in health, in mobility, in energy, in manufacturing, etc. So we want now to go a step further, and we not only to develop the solution, but we want this solution to help Europe to be more competitive globally.
That's fantastic, Kim. And one of the big kind of things that's coming up now is the Apply AI strategy as well. So really much moving to the adoption phase. Anything you'd like to share on Apply AI?
Yes, Apply AI has been mentioned the last summer. And what I can say, it's GenAI for EU initiative is, let's say, embedded into the Apply AI strategy. I cannot say more, as what you said, that it is a lot focused on deployment on some prioritized sectors or verticals. But this strategy is now still being developed. And I got information. I'm not directly working in that field, but should be developed and finalized in 2025. So the details of that strategy will come next. But as you very correctly said, it will focus no more on deployment side and to bring this technology to make Europe more competitive.
That's great. So thank you both very much. We might have time for one question, and then I might have a final wrap-up statement then. So there's a question in there saying regulatory sandboxes, are they already working at the moment? Are they already functioning? Is there any successful examples of these, or are we still at the point where we're figuring those out?
I cannot really say from my side. As I said, I'm working in the unit that is dealing in ecosystem of excellence in AI robotics, and my colleagues working the regulatory compliance are working on the regulatory sandboxes. So I cannot say from the moment. If I'm not mistaken, it is still under development, but this should is like very hardly working on it.
That's great. So as Kimmo had said at the start, or sorry, in the last session, this is a really exciting time to be in Europe. We're having a lot of opportunities around bringing together communities around AI, around data, around AI factories, around compute. There's a lot of push now around the policies for the new commission and what the future will hold. And to really emphasize, it's been mentioned a number of times already, but ADRA has a strategic research and innovation agenda. This is our document that's created by the community. It's created by the ADRA members. And this really is an important document that's used to convey the message from ADRA to the Commission about what we feel the priorities are in terms of research and innovation. So I'm just really emphasizing here to the audience and also to our members that this is really the best way to engage with us to kind of influence the future of where Europe will go through our research and innovation agenda. It's a very open, collaborative process. And there's opportunities to contribute to that when you're a member of ADRA. Kimmo, Cem, I would like to thank you both for taking the time to be with us this morning. It's been a very interesting conversation. It's been great to get an update from both of you on the activities from the Commission. And thank you very much, and have a great holiday. And we'll see you hopefully in the new year. With that, I'm going to hand over to Philip, who will bring us on to the next session in the Awareness Day. Thank you.
Great. Thanks again, Ed, Kimmo, and Cem. Fantastic insights from the Commission colleagues there. They give us a good bit of again insight into how things are shaping up and the general direction of the strategy. But moving on, we're gonna now start the next panel, which is towards an ecosystem of trust and excellence in AI data robotics. And I'll be inviting our panelists to turn their cameras on and join us. So starting with the pictures at the top, Stefan Leinen, who is head of EU relations at AINED. Fabio Pianesi, who is the Distinguished Fellow at FBK and a Senior Advisor for EU Affairs at Aruba and Dynamo. Nabil Belbakir, who is the Director, he's on the Board of Directors of EU Robotics and also Norse. We have Robert Brockmeyer, who's the General Manager at Computing and Artificial Intelligence Networks at BMW Group. And I believe Roy is still to join us, so I'll introduce him if he manages to make it. He's obviously delayed. So thank you very much to all of you for joining. So today's session is really going to be kind of delving into what it means to have an ecosystem of trust in AI data robotics. And we're going to touch on the kind of ever-changing scene of these three technologies. We're going to, I think, try and understand a little bit what the state of play is in Europe as we kind of progress in the development of the ecosystem. The requirements from end users. What are some of the bottlenecks in deploying the technology? What it means to have a kind of real trustworthy AI data and robotics technologies, and how do you organize to foster an environment that is transparent and encourages value-driven practices. So in the first instance, to get us started, Stefan, I wanted to invite you to the floor, and the question is in relation to trustworthiness across the entire life cycle. How can we make sure that this question of trustworthiness explainability and understandability of the technology is really embedded from the design to the deployment and eventually the decommissioning of the technologies.
Yes, thank you, Philip. So in order to ensure the trustworthiness of AI made in Europe, built on AI data robotics built in Europe, you need two things. First of all, you need the right playing field. This means regulation, harmonization, the right standards. And second, you need players with the right tools in order to build trustworthy AI. So I'll focus on these two parts. So the first part is well known. We have already a set of regulations that ensure from a shaper perspective, so legislative perspective, that European companies, but also companies from outside of Europe, comply with our most basic standards of protecting citizens, protecting consumers. So, of course, the AI Act, GDPR, which is complemented by other elements of the digital rule books, such as the Digital Markets Act and Digital Services Act. And these, again, are complemented by standards, regulatory sandboxes, and other policy tools in order to create this right playing field. A metaphor that is sometimes used in this is the idea of a car with the guardrails. So if you have the right guardrails, the car can actually go much faster. And the same goes with the car with a brake. So sometimes people regulation can hamper innovation, although that can be the case to some extent. I believe personally that the way that the AI Act has been shaped actually allows for our cars to go much faster because they have brakes. So we can use the example, if you want to stay in the car metaphor, of the safety belt. The safety belt, nobody liked the idea of the safety belt. The citizens didn't like it, car buyers, car manufacturers, etc. But once it was there, it allowed us to build more and sell more cars because trust increased. So this is actually what you need from a government perspective, the right playing field in order for trustworthy AI to come about. However, and I'm keeping this car metaphor, I think, for now. When it comes to frontier models, we are currently sitting in the back seat. So if we want to determine in Europe with European companies and also on the public, what do we want to use AI for? Where do we go with this technology? We need to have our hands on the steering wheel. So, and this is the second part. We need players, globally competitive players with the right tools for trustworthy AI. And when I say tools, I mean, of course, technical tools like the ones you mentioned, Philip. So explainability tools, ways for humans to have control, for the human to be in the loop, etc. But also the right tools for governing AI within the organization. How do we work together with AI in a team? What type of training do we need for employees, whether it's the developers or the people using AI, in order for them to work in a responsible way with these technologies? Because ultimately, the ethical, legal, and societal aspects of ADR technologies become most relevant at the point of deployment of these technologies. So although it is very valuable to determine the universal standards, legislations, etc., ultimately, it comes down to the people who are deploying it in a very specific context, and they need to have the right tools and training in order to make the right decisions at that point. Once we have all these elements in place, so both from the legislative point, the right playing field, but also the players in Europe that are competitive, then we can start talking about a Brussels effect, not just exporting our values through legislation, but also exporting European values through innovation. I think that's the point where we would like to be.
Great. Thank you very much, Stefan, for bringing some of these points to life and painting a vivid picture of where we need some of these regulations and guardrails in place for the technology. So I'm going to move over to Nabil now, and I have a question for you that really I would like to find out how we can bridge the gap between public perceptions and the reality of ADR systems, capabilities and limitations. And I wonder whether you might be able to give us quite a concrete kind of example. So I know that, for instance, you're quite interested in the kind of circularity aspect and how circularity can be responded to with some of these systems.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so first of the public perception. So first, yeah, thanks a lot for being for letting me being here and talk with you about these important topics. So if I am a citizen in Europe, so I feel myself overwhelmed with a lot of information, mostly about AI. I think we speak about AI data and robotics, but if in the last 3-4 years, it's AI is dominating the news to the public. And you see a lot of an avalanche of talks, an avalanche of speakers talking either about reality or fictions. And I would say, if I'm a citizen in Europe, I don't know what is the reality and what is the non-reality. I think that's what you mentioned is very important. Things that we have to connect what is the hype, what is ongoing now with real world challenges, real world scenarios. We are in a very difficult time now with the war and the crisis and geopolitically making the whole perception of AI data and robotics very, very critical, especially when it leads with threats. You know, we are speaking about trustworthiness now and explainability of AI. I know this is from like 50 years ago. We know that AI is not trustworthy. We know it now, and probably we will not solve the problem in the next 30 years, but the way how we have to transport it to the people, so it has, we need to really connect it to concrete scenarios, as you mentioned here. So for instance, I really like the presentation also of Emanuela. She was showing robots integrating AI. That is something also important to mention, because also people when they speak about AI data and robotics, they confuse robotics with AI, which are two different disciplines. They can integrate it. They can how to say, strengthen the value and strengthen the competitiveness of the product and so on. But they are two different things. So to reduce the gap, so I think there are two main things. One is about people. I think we need to be responsible on the information and the value that AI data and robotics should be conveyed to the public. And it has to go into 2 ways or 3 ways. One is that decision makers, you need people at the decision making, people at the management, and people at the implementing the technology. And this is where Europe has really to work on. The keywords is people, competent people working at these 3 levels. And the second thing, which I think that especially for the AI, I propose that, or I would propose that AI should be a lessons or a lecture that should be given in all disciplines, that people, even if they are doing medical studies or they're doing psychology or they are doing whatever, it should not be something that you only computer scientists and electronic engineers know about it. So it should be, I would introduce it for all disciplines, 2 years. I speak about AI, but typically it's machine learning. That's the areas what you can teach, but you can give the introduction about the whole AI and teach it. People, then you can reduce the gap between the people when people talk about AI, when people are educated on it. And the last point, what you mentioned here, Philip, is very important to connect the AI data and robotics to concrete values to the citizens. Either is it in manufacturing, you mentioned, either is about managing waste, dealing with the big strategic topic that we are talking about, resilience, like critical raw materials, chip factory. So this is the areas where AI data and robotics can really boost, or can people see the value and not the science fiction things that is coming in the news that people doesn't have a perception about what does it mean really for their real world situation.
Thank you very much. I think that's a really critical point here to ensure that within society, at least, there is a very basic understanding of how AI works, and really get the kind of moving away, as you put it, from the kind of science fiction element, so that people start to recognize that this is really a tool more than something that we should be afraid of. And I think on this this point, I wanted to introduce Fabio. And Fabio, I wanted to perhaps make the connection with society and the importance of ethics, the ethical questions when you deploy a technology like this. So, do you think you could perhaps reflect a little bit on Nabil's points and give us a sense of how perhaps also concerns around data ownership and consent might also help us to consider how we embed kind of ethical requirements in the deployment of the technology?
Okay. Hi. Thanks a lot, Philip, for the question, and thanks a lot for inviting me. Can you hear me right? Okay. So building on Nabil's suggestions and well, actually Stefan's as well, I'd like to focus now on one of the main actors in all this ecosystem, main actors. So that is the developers of new solutions, new AI-based users. I think that there's a sort of funnel here, or bottleneck, if you like, where everything goes down into something that must be very, very much concrete, both for developers and for users, that guarantees them that what they're going to develop and put on the market, and the users, what they're going to use is compliant with relevant regulations, satisfies ethical requirements, etc. So I'd like to focus very briefly on the notion of compliance. Notion of compliance, well, you know that many companies have big compliance departments, regulatory, etc., and many of them are now making a living or improving their making a living thanks to the many regulations that have been issued by the European Union, and then take up actions by national governments. But this is not going to be so happy a picture for SMEs, small companies, be they developers or users. So they need to be put in a position to deploy and easily validate the compliance of their solutions, and pretty much the same for users, to be able to without much further ado, to easily, and quickly understand whether what they're going to buy, and including their own catalog, is compliant with relevant regulations. So I'd like here to focus on the possibility of exploiting AI solutions as well, in order to set up automatic compliance solutions for developers and for users as well. That would be of great value, and I think that there are already a number of attempts that are going to be pursued, especially in some verticals, such as I know works being done in finance and banking, etc. But none of them have taken the EU regulation at face value. In particular, all the relevant EU regulation, especially if you think that the type of market where these products and solution services will be exchanged most probably will be a cloud-supported market. So exploiting notions such as clearing houses, compliance automatic checking, compliance solutions would be of the utmost importance in order to speed up the transition from the lab to the fab, and what is more important to the market itself. In order to do this, you need to engage one actor that I just mentioned, which sometimes is sort of neglected when talking about the European AI ecosystem, which are cloud providers. We seem to forget that most of the AI that we're seeing around, especially those coming from the US, basically travels travels along cloud system, cloud service providers. Well, we all know who they are. I mean, the big three, the hyperscaler, etc. If we really want to foster compliance and at the same time, of course, compliance with respect to European regulation, I would expect also that we would like also to push very much the accelerator concerning European sovereignty in the cloud ecosystem, so that they can actually support not only compliance, but the transition of any type of new solutions to the market. So we need at some point also to engage a bit more with European commercial cloud providers, and include them in the ecosystem that we've been discussing so far, in order to transform them into the vehicle, okay, or at least one of the main vehicle to transfer in the innovation to the market. Compliance here would be a major asset at this point, not only for developers, not only, of course, for the users, but also for this new vehicle. That is at least a possibility that we could use in order to make the best of the current regulation and the regulation that is going to be issued also at the national levels, because that is going to to pile up continuously, and make it into a competitive advantage with respect to non-European competitors. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Fabio. That was a really, really detailed explanation of how we might get the most potential and value from some of these emerging enabling frameworks. And so I wanted to test the theory with our industry voice on the panel. So we have Robert joining us from BMW. And so as was already presented by Emanuela, BMW are pushing the boundaries of what the technology is able to do with the deployment of the Figure robot. But of course, these boundaries are not being pushed within the confines of Europe. They're being pushed in the US, in the plants in the US, and so therefore, Robert, I wanted to whether you could, again, perhaps if you could reflect on some of the points that Fabio mentioned, and I think the key thing here is about how we can ensure that our enabling framework in Europe does kind of support the rollout of these technologies. And I think also importantly, there's a question of scale as well. So how can we not only deploy and demonstrate and experiment with these technologies, but then how can we push the question of scale, and where do you see the bottlenecks? Where do you see firstly the opportunities given the context of the regulations and everything else, and where do you see the bottlenecks as BMW?
So, Philip, thank you. Thanks for having me. So, let me first start by explaining a bit like which AI use cases do we have at BMW, and what is the impact of BMW where we use AI. So AI is not anything new to BMW. We actually brought our first use case to our vehicles and our customers more than 6 years ago. This is what we call the cut-in detection. Think of you're driving on a highway and another car wants to get in the same lane in front of you. It's actually very important you find out, or the automated driving system finds out, whether the other car is staying in that lane or trying to do the cut-in, because otherwise you're having unnecessary brakes when the other car doesn't want to get in front of you. And it turns out doing this in a rule-based way was very hard. And the tool for choice is actually AI. Yeah? So this we brought to series more than 6 years ago. Another thing we do very often is optical inspection in our plants. Yeah, you have a camera, look at something, it's trained on discriminating good or bad situations, And so you can improve the quality right there where it happens. And this is rolled out to any BMW plant, hundreds of use cases. It's a standard thing we do. And also here it's AI doing the computer vision. Then a third topic is predictive maintenance. Now, if you record data of what is happening in the plant, you can learn about when things broke down, and you can estimate, when is this going to happen again? And this allows us to schedule maintenance and time it in a way that many things that might fail in the next, say, 2 months are repaired at the same time, which is greatly reducing plant downtime. So also this is something that we do on a large scale. Now, with generative AI coming up, the next lever is internal chatbots. So obviously we don't want our employees to ask like internal questions to external websites because that input might be even used for training and so forth. So we have our internal version where people can ask questions about, how do you build a strategy for X, Y, Z, and so forth. And we can upload documents like internal documents and ask questions on those documents. So something very straightforward that I think everybody can do privately, also at home, going to the usual AI websites. Now, talking a little bit about the future, I'd like to address what we call the ultimate companion. This is something that our CEO explained almost 2 years ago in the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. And we had like the Knight Rider and Herbie on stage. So this is about the car being communicative in a way like your best friend would be. So focusing on good understanding, on adequate replies, on contextual awareness, maybe also if you want that on personalization. So having your history known by the vehicle, and that's what we work on. Yeah. And then last not least, where you saw the video, this is obviously something far-reaching. The collaboration we have with Figure AI, having multiple robots walk in the plant, and we are doing this to understand, what is the capability of the technology. And it's not a surprise. Not every operation works with 100% success. So we are monitoring what are the failure modes on a technical perspective, but then also on a use case perspective, finding out which process steps in a plant are adequate, because this, what the person does is not liked by the plant staff, or it might be even dangerous. So it's finding out the sweet spot where technology can help, and where it can also help our employees. So this was actually quite a long list of AI applications, which I think is adequate for most large companies globally. Yeah. Now, you ask questions about, the bottlenecks. So question to you, Philip, should I address this now, or do we do it a little later, like also regulation?
I think so. My next question was actually going to be, we are clearly trying to paint a picture of what is happening on the European level. But as was mentioned previously, this is very much a global question. And there are lots of, I think, levers that we could be assessing and leveraging to support Europe's kind of potential to project to that global level. So it would be really good if you could comment on the regulatory framework. And I think my next question was going to be actually to Fadibia, how those European standards can start to influence our global, international level thinking. But let's maybe start on this level, and the next question will be on the kind of international stage.
Okay, so let's maybe focus on the economic situation, the global economic situation first. I'm not sure whether everyone in this audience is aware how important AI is for global growth. So depending on which number you look at, it's probably about a third of global growth is driven by AI. So it's huge, right? So the problem is that, this generates value, but where does the value add up? And about 3/4 of that value is being acquired by US companies. So think of NVIDIA for hardware and chips. Think of AWS and Azure for cloud. Think of Microsoft for general software, which supports AI, right? And think of OpenAI for generative AI. The large players are all US companies. Yeah, this is a problem. Yeah, so this is why, coming from a European perspective, we need to be aware of that global situation. Now, let's look at what's happening in the regulatory arena. So my personal perception is the following. In US, there's actually a diverse set of opinions, but on a national level, the wording in publications has always been careful not to set a timeline when a regulation will be set. Yeah, so it's always about assessing something, proposing something, but never about really regulating something. That was the situation throughout most of this year. Then when you look at the US states, it's quite different. For example, Colorado is more restrictive, but they're not having much business. When you look at California, where most of the companies have a lot of business, the AI companies, the governor recently vetoed an AI bill. Yeah, and since the new election, we also heard more talk about less restrictions from the regulatory side or even global AI dominance. So that's the US side. The China side is a little bit different. They are also, I think, very much innovative, allowing innovations. As long as it meets one requirement, you need to follow the official line of communication. Yeah, and then we all know we have the EU AI Act, which is focusing on risks that come with AI. We talked about it, and monitoring and control. Yeah, and wisely, the EU AI Act it needs standardization, and so now it's on us to find the fine line between being innovative and reaching the growth we need, at the same time ruling out the risks of AI. Yeah, and so this is what we currently work on in the standardization. And so, I mean, there are a few points here that I'd like to point out. When you standardize a regulation, you have to be aware of the setting. So we have probably century-old regulation in all industries. Think of car industry, like safety, we talked about it. Think of banking, think of consumer electronics. So there always is existing and generally well-working regulation. Now, AI regulation needs to be consistent, right? And this is something that needs to be driven in an industry-specific way, and we are currently organizing for this. Second, I think there is the EU single market that needs to be strengthened. So if you think about a startup in Europe, and we know that the legal framework is different state by state. So what is that startup having to do? They need to focus on how do they get customers in mass first, right? So will they go for the French market, the Italian market, or will they say, oh, I go for the US market? So this is unfortunately the situation, and we're focusing on improving that situation. And finally, it's about supporting EU tech players, yeah, by ways of public procurement and investments. Public procurement is important because it is a Kickstarter for the economics and the profits of a company that drive that investors find these companies attractive and invest, right? And so this is also something that we are jointly discussing and pushing forward because we believe this is important. And all of this is summarized by actually what I call human-centric AI. Yeah, I mean, AI is there for humans, right? For people or for society to thrive on. So we need the growth, and yeah, it brings huge opportunities also, and things that benefit every person, like better healthcare. So that's really the bottom line of focusing on the growth and the benefits while limiting the risks.
Great, thank you very much, Robert. So we have a few minutes left, and I just wanted to hear a few last words from each of the panelists. So, in a kind of short, give us your short kind of thoughts on where you think, Stefan, that Europe can really kind of work into this space. How do we take things to the how can we start to compete on this kind of global stage?
Well, first of all, I think I'm echoing here some of Robert's word. We need to realize that AI, data, and robotics are far too important to leave in the hands of a few American companies. It simply doesn't allow us as companies and consumers and citizens with enough choice. So I think this realization comes first. And second of all, we can of course then be start being concerned, but I think there are also very good reasons for optimism besides that concern, because there are opportunities looming on the horizon. For example, yesterday, Ilya Sutskever, one of the OpenAI founders, announced that we have reached peak data, which is, I guess, comparable to peak oil, meaning we have used the internet, and so we don't have any cheap scaling available. And when I say we, I also mean the American companies. So that means that just like with peak oil, we need to transition to a different scaling law. In this case, we, for example, see opportunities in more efficient algorithms, like, for example, causality or geometric deep learning or open-ended methods, etc., but also in the hardware layer, in the hardware stack. So on-edge, energy-efficient hardware, ranging from etching transformers onto chips to neuromorphic computing. And all these are opportunities for Europe to position itself back into this generative AI technology stack. So even though this might sound like peak data might sound like bad news, I think it's actually good news for Europe. It's good news for those who are strong in the collection and creation of data, like we are, and collecting data in the industrial verticals, like we are. So now it's really the time to bank on this. But like I said, and I think it really starts with the realization that we need to build this position, and we need to take it seriously. We need to take the Draghi report seriously, and we need to take the upscaling of all these technologies seriously beyond simply the research itself.
Great, thank you very much, Stefan. Nabil, same question to you.
Yes, I have to take it from another perspective. I think we live in a global world, globalization. No one has control over the whole supply chain. So the key word is a supply chain, and you don't find a single country or a single continent controlling the whole supply chain. So we are completely interconnected. Of course, now the most of the talk is about AI. And this is it has to do three things. So we have AI, data, and robotics. So we are, I think, is access to the market. The robotics, we have like the robotic company in Europe has access to the market. So they sell robots with the different type, or even cars. I call them as robots, autonomous cars as robots. But also they have the competency people, but even the supply, like all the robot supply chain is not all made in Europe. You have a different part. On the AI side, you have the companies who are accessing the market are mostly the American company. We speak here about American, probably in the future it will be Chinese, we never know, but they have access to the market. But even though the supply chain on AI, it's not only American. So you have also Europe who is part of the supply chain, and many other countries along the supply chain. So And the data is something in between. So we have access to the market, we have access to the supply chain, so it's something in between. But the ADRA here, which is the convergence between the three areas, let's make the three areas very, very stronger, or very, very strong. So Europe, what has to do now is how to strengthen itself within along the supply chain of AI, data and robotic, and the convergence of AI, data and robotic. So of course, I remember, like, I don't know, 30 years ago, we have Tiscali. I don't know if people knows. Before Google started, Tiscali was one of the bigger machines for, searching in the web and so on. It was a European company in Italy. And then Google came, and of course, they got all the customers and so on. And before, we have two big companies, mobile phone, like Nokia and Ericsson, which was like big companies. And then you have now other companies delivering mobile phone to us. So, and that's all fine. So, but what is really important here is how to collaborate with the other place of the world and strengthen your position along the supply chain. And I just want to invite everyone to go to the SRIDA. I think we discussed about this very concretely. There are really a lot of areas where Europe has to invest. The key point is people. I think whatever technology, if you don't have the people, if the people leave Europe and go to other places, then you can put as much money, you can put as much technologies, then you don't have the right people, the competent people. But there are other places where we speak about technology leadership and be part of the supply chain to strengthen European competitiveness and in AI, data and robotic, and the converging area. We speak also about AI, data and robotics that help to develop or in the climate, environmental friendly circularities, and so on and so forth. So that's very important that Europe take a position in this. And we are, I think, in Europe taking a big position into this circularities. And then we speak also about resilience and sovereignty, that we speak about the CHIPS Act, Critical Raw Material Act, Pharma Act, where AI, data and robotic plays a big role into this. But all in all, yes, we speak about sovereignty, and but I am not completely. I would say I would be worried if we don't have people. We have to trust the people. We have to hire the right people and invest in the right topic to strengthen your position in AI, data and robotic, and the market will come. The access to the customers, that's what will come. If we are competitive, we have product and so on, then we can access to the market as our American and Chinese have it so far.
Great, Nabil. Thank you very much. Fabio, I'm going to give you the final word on this.
I will build on what I said before concerning compliance as an operationalization of regulation. The other side of it, of course, is standards. And I would like to emphasize the creative and bidirectional relationship between regulation and standards. So standards as such are those that developers know, developers can easily digest, developers can easily adapt to, developers contribute to develop, etc., etc. So this is what developers and many of the users also understand better. So it is important that standards take up as much as possible regulations, and regulations, well, and that is a bit more maybe naive and asking for magics, but regulation also, when devised, also take into consideration that somehow at some point they will have to be turned into standards. Anyway, standards are of the utmost importance in this picture for the notion of compliance in general, and of course the possibility of really making a big business out of a European AI. It is also important as an additional factor for empowering Europe with respect to other. I still like to think in terms of continental blocks, other continental blocks, because having a standard is something which is more easily deployable, more easily understandable, and transferable also to other continent, okay, to other blocks than simply regulations. Okay, so the importance of standard for me is very high here in this picture. It will make a lot in order to not build but strengthen the ecosystem and make it possible for European AI to really thrive.
Fantastic, Fabio. Thank you very much for that. And I want to say a very warm thank you to all of our panelists today. I think it was really very, very interesting discussion. We covered a lot of ground, ranging from the kind of regulatory environment. So what needs to happen with innovation? How do we compete? And I think there's a lot of again insights that we could gather from that. It sounds like we probably should have added an additional hour for the panel discussion because there was a lot more ground to cover. But thank you very much once again. And we are going to be coming basically to the close of today's session. But before we do that, I did just want to say, ask Heike to put her video on. Hello there. Could you please, I'm going to hand directly over to you at this point, and please just introduce the final part of the session.
Yeah, I just wanted to take this opportunity to highlight an open access book that we are planning to publish. We are looking for kind of opinion pieces, research articles, case studies, and so on and so forth on AI, data, and robotics. The deadline is fairly soon. It's on the 6th of January, but it's just for an abstract. And it will be published by Springer then later on in the year. So if you need any further information, I probably would say in the interest of time, just contact me directly and I can send you some more information on that. Thank you, Philip.
Great. Thank you very much, Heike. So running perfectly to time, that's the end of our session today, the end of the Awareness Day. Thank you very much to everyone who joined us, and thank you once again to all of our speakers and panelists for a really, really fascinating workshop and set of discussions. So, goodbye. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and New Year.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.